Hey guys, yesterday I made a point using the Google Sheet that I claimed that the Google Sheet calculation tells me that after 20 years, the annuity, fixed annuity, non-qualified, using after-tax money, can retain 83% of the value for the mutual fund even though the growth rate is drastically different. Mutual funds assumed at least 9% growing year after year, and annuity is only growing 4%. Okay, so not even half of it. But after 20 years, because the compounded tax savings, because compounded deferred taxes over time, we were able, the fixed annuity were able to retain 83% of the value. That I need to make a correction to be more accurate because yesterday I did not calculate the after taxes. I only calculated the total value for annuity after 20 years. But at the year 20, when the individual investment ready to take money out, they have to pay taxes, right? Especially if they take the money out in a lump sum. And then that's the worst tax situation. Then they have to pay tax. And not only to pay tax, they have to pay the income tax, which is supposedly has a higher ceiling than the capital gain tax of a mutual fund. However, the point is still retained because I added the two columns, after doing the calculation using the after taxes annuity. And then I show that if you can see that at the end of the table, the last two columns, I added one column for dollar amount and added another column for the percentage. I show that even at the 37% of income tax rate, that's the top, the biggest tax rate for annuity, the annuity can still retain more than 61% of the value for mutual fund. Okay, so you may think that doesn't make sense because one is growing 9%, another is growing 4%, is not even half it. How can you retain 61% of the value? That's the answer is simple. You have to consider the compounded tax difference. Okay, it's one thing. One is that a tax deferred, so you have a tax advantage, right? You don't have to pay taxes year after year. So that's one advantage. But not only that, the tax money, the saved tax money will be compounding. The money leads to more money. So basically, that's the easiest way to say that compounding. So because you save year after year for 20 years, your annuity can retain 61%. Okay, so that's the power. But here today I'm going to say another thing that's interesting that I mentioned that at the beginning of this series, a few videos. I said that the other day I read a post on LinkedIn. There's another guy was claiming that the doctors, please don't ever buy whole life insurance. Okay, so very strong opinion and a very kind of extreme basically says that there's no positions, there's no business for any doctors to buy whole life insurance. Okay, his recommendation is something BTID, which means buy term, B means buy, T means term life insurance. And then invest, I means invest. The difference is a BTID. Okay, that's a famous actually. It's been promoted for years, and people are saying that we should never buy whole life insurance. We should only buy term life insurance. The term life insurance is much cheaper. in terms of premium. Let me give you these two numbers. Let's assume hypothetically your annual premium for whole life maybe let's say $100. Each year you pay $100 for your whole life premium. Then let's say for your term life insurance, you only pay like $10 each year. And then so basically that BTID means that you should never spend like $100 to buy whole life insurance. Instead, you spend $10 to buy a term life insurance. Okay, and then what's the difference? There's difference because the premium is different. One is $100, another is $10. So the $90 difference. So this approach says that you should use the $90 to invest that into your equity market. You buy, you can do the index, you buy the exchange traded fund, you buy mutual fund, you do whatever you think that brings you a higher return. So that's supposed to be sensible, smart approach. There's only one problem. Let's talk about the MDs. Okay, the doctors they're supposedly very busy. Even for residents, you see this ERs, you see that other TV dramas, you see that how much pressure the MDs can be. So there's one problem. You expect year after year that those doctors will buy the $10 term life insurance and invest the remaining $90 into equity market, into stock market, which brings much higher return, than the whole life would be. Whole life is very conservative, right? Like I said, the BTID approach has one problem, is that you very likely that the money, that the $90 we're talking about, very likely you will not end up investing that $90 into your equity market, into stock market. You probably will end up using that $90 for something else. Okay, so that's the problem. I think, in my opinion, that's the biggest problem. Okay, because that's the same logic. It's just like if you opt in or opt out. If you say, are you going to do the 401k? Are you going to participate in the 401k? If the company says, by default, we'll assume you will agree to participate in the 401k, right? So the other possibility is just opt out. We assume, unless you say, okay, I want to buy 401k, then you'll be left out in the 401k program. That's the same idea. So if you don't let insurance agent, I'm not saying, the whole idea is not like defending insurance business and defending whole life, defending fixed annuity. No, I'm just making a point is that everything has its value. If you do this, you may lead to something else, but you also lead to losing something. So everything's about a trade-off. Okay, so in this case, that you let life insurance agent do your favor. Basically, ask you, they're doing this sales pitch and say, please buy a life insurance, buy a whole life insurance. It is true that the whole life insurance brings more commission for insurance agent, but there's two sides of it. One side is that yes, that sometimes the insurance agent, they're not acting like a fiduciary, right? They're putting their own interest before the client interest. But on the other hand, we also have another side, which is that by persuading doctors to buy whole life insurance, it's basically just same thing as you opt in. You ask you to ask doctors to put money into whole life insurance. That saves a lot of trouble. saves a lot of time. So we have a peace of mind. You don't, a doctor won't need to worry about how do I invest, what kind of stock do I buy in the stock market. For the $90 I saved from the whole life by investing term life, the $90 I saved, how do I do that? How do I spend the $90? So that's the thing. That's the idea, is that everything has some strengths and also have some business weakness. Okay, let's stop here.